So yeah, they really did that. They killed Nanako.
This is why I stressed several times through these videos about the necessity of making Nanako a beloved character. For this moment to have the true impact it needed, they had to craft things so that not just the characters inside of the game became attached to her, but the audience playing it as well. To have the same type of emotional reactions to this happening as the cast would then have. Distraught, up in arms, angry, and ashamed they couldn't do anything to help someone that had become a little sister to them all. Coupled with a failure to solve the case before she became a victim, or a way to prevent the fog from the Shadow Realm from seeping in, which they only now realize despite Teddy's words about that earlier in the game, when they try putting on their anti-fog sunglasses in the real world when it settles in permanently over the town. That also happens to be driving everyone crazy. Well, they didn't see the clues, or find the evidence fast enough to pin down the man responsible, and now a little girl is dead because of it, with everyone distraught and inconsolable.
About that. I talked with the guys at the station, and it'll be next to impossible to find him guilty in court.
Exact wrong time, Adachi. For the love of... You're trying to get them motivated to kill Namatame, aren't you? The only way this could be worse if he was in this hospital too. He's in the hospital, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's directly where Ryotaro heads after Nanako flatlines. Consumed with grief and dragged away, with everyone but Teddy then sneaking into his room, as Teddy laments that his world was ultimately responsible for taking her life, and vanishing back to it. With everyone else, we find Namatame attempting to escape, as it hits midnight.
I failed, but it wasn't my fault, and the law can't touch me anyway. I don't care either way. Living or dying makes no difference to me. But you're different. You can't do such a thing. You wouldn't dare, right? I'll continue saving people. It's my mission.
A shadow reveals to the world the face we don't want others to see, that we don't want to hear. Namatame doesn't want to accept he's responsible for Nanako's death. So I think it's time he faced the consequences of his actions, and for Narukami to show his inner Haseo.
Drown in the power of your emotions! It didn't happen like you think it did!
Narukami! What are you doing?
Cut, pierce, rip, sever! Cut, to your heart's content! Please don't! I promise! I was just trying to save her! That is your true nature! It's who you are! They were going to kill her! Let me go! Please! Please! I won't go back.
Huh? What the hell, bro? You just gonna let him go?
To being the terror of death!
If we don't stop this guy right here, no one else will!
And if we do that, then we're no better than he is! I won't let myself drown in power! I won't lose myself!
We can't lose sight of what's right. That's why we started doing this in the first place. To find out the truth.
As caught up in their grief and anger, they almost forgot what was most important to preventing this all over again. The truth. All they have as evidence is patched together from experiences. But why? Really? Was Namatame doing this?
And really, they're the only ones who can ask him anything and get a straight answer, as though he shoved people into the Shadow Realm, he didn't do it with intent to kill them.
How can we possibly understand someone who says killing people is the same as saving them?
Failing to understand and failing to listen are rather different things.
In reality, we were just judging his words and meaning from a preconception and knowledge Namatame didn't have. He didn't know the Shadow Realm was what killed people. In his psychosis, he thought that was what kept them safe, as after he started throwing people in, they didn't end up dead, even though it was our actions that would save them. Each side has been operating from faulty knowledge. Had we not rescued Yukiko when she died, well, Namatame would have probably realized he just did the same thing as the actual killer. The one who murdered the woman he loved, the original victim, Yamane. He's not the one we're after, just another pawn of the real chess master, consumed by grief and wanting to save others to fill the emptiness from her loss, only to be used in turn as a proxy in their game.
This is the second to last GU character parallel I saw, with Namatame being similar to Ovan, both having their abhorrent actions motivated from a guilt-ridden desire to get their loved ones back.
Now obviously Ovan succeeded in that and nonetheless took the blame for his actions as, hell, he was fully conscious of doing them, nor do you have Namatame's psychotic breaks as a mediating factor. But at their core, they had the desire and a power that could be used to rescue other victims. Where they diverge, most crucially, is in their knowledge of how to use it.
But what does that matter? Nanako's still dead because of him. Well, actually that depends on you, as this is only all revealed if you chose to spare Namatame, as this is where the game's multiple endings come into play.
Shove Namatame into the TV, and while the group stays together, nothing is ever the same again. Inaba remains shrouded in fog, Ryotaro loses the will to live, and time jumps ahead to Narukami leaving Inaba and everyone, never to be seen again. Walking out has Yosuke do the deed, the act covered through their friendship, but the same ending results. Stop Yosuke from doing so, and leave Namatame to wallow in his own madness, however, and you find that Nanako isn't dead. Her vitals have slipped off the chart, but she's still there. But the same thing happens. Inaba remains shrouded in fog, Namatame convicted, with Nanako still effectively dead to the world, to never recover.
This third path, however, leads to the actual truth behind everything, and can only be done by sparing Namatame, and hearing what he has to say, as he is the one that gives us the final clues to the truth.
As what did Adachi say about it before? He had an alibi for Yamane's murder, and that of Saki. Hell, when Saki appeared on the Midnight Channel, he tried to warn her, only for her to end up dead. That's what got him started on this mess. Evidence to him that this would only continue if he did nothing. And thus the true culprit has been enshrouded in fog, covered up with these further incidents by both him and Mitsuo unknowingly copying his actions, with no clues to who he actually is.
Well, actually, you do. It is someone you have met, has played a major role in this game, and was more obviously guilty in the original version, as he did not have a social link.
What? That's ridiculous! We already know Namatame's the one who put them all in!
What did you just say?
Throughout the game and your interactions with him, Adachi's dialogue is filled with intermittent clues that seem as oddly phrased statements to the unawares, but display the man's true character of always toying with those around him, using his meticulously chosen phrases to intentionally get rises out of people and direct them towards the path of false information. He enjoys playing with people, as he views himself smarter and above all of them. But by playing with others in this manner, it's only a matter of time until he gave himself away.
To tell the truth, Adachi-san, I've been fixated on something you once said. Before I didn't know why, only that it sounded a wrong note to me. Even the victims who survived and were never released to the public are written here. And in response, your words were, "Wow." Then that settles it. How, I wonder, would that settle anything?
And as if to confirm his guilt, he escapes into the TV.
This is why you do not raise Adachi's social link above rank 6, by the way. Any higher and it actually screws over this ending and the path to the truth.
Go any higher, and when Narukami reaches the conclusion that Adachi is responsible, Narukami will then collude with him in covering up his crime due to the strength of the bond and the social link, becoming his accomplice in framing Namatame, forevermore drowning out the truth, and letting the fog of the Shadow Realm consume the world. By keeping it at rank 6, however, Adachi's Jester Arcana transmutes into the Hunger Arcana and automatically levels just as the Fool and Judgment Arcana do, as he becomes the final blockade to obtaining the truth.
Also, Toru Hojo in Agito, Toru Sakaki Uike in .hack GU, and now Toru Adachi in Persona. This is starting to become a villainous naming trend in my reviews.
But this all becomes worse thanks to the golden expansion to his character, as by being around him more through his initial social link levels, he really seems to connect with everyone, especially Nanako, but shows more of how he's a trickster always trying to get out of doing things the right way if there's an easy way to do them, and willing to throw away anything, acts like anyone if it will get him what he wants.
The person you believed in was a version of me who only existed in your head.
And thus, the final GU parallel. An obvious one with how manipulative a bastard he is, and I stated it a moment ago. For Toru Adachi is...
Sakaki!
After all, what did Adachi do than play with people to create his ideal little world, where he is never bored, and where everyone is like him, just trying to get ahead and using others for their own amusement? Yes, he killed Yamane when she wouldn't acquiesce to his advances when he was assigned as her guard. Yes, he killed Saki just to see if he could after he found out his ability to shove people into TVs and wanted to see it again. He was the one that got Namatame to play into his crusade when he tried to tell the police about the Midnight Channel. And he was even directly responsible for Mitsuo being sent in as well, after Mitsuo killed King Moron, and immediately came into the station to confess. But where would the fun be in a game where he's leading around people like puppets on string if someone came to claim the credits? He's even responsible for the threatening letters sent to Narukami that he disposed of, while everyone else was busy, to elude suspicion in the event they figured out his handwriting. He's a spiteful, egotistical man, manipulating everyone around him for his own whims and a means of controlling them. And doesn't that sound just like Sakaki?
Johnny on Bosch, by the way, gives an excellent performance as Adachi in the games. Less so the anime, where for some reason they made Adachi's voice far more high-pitched and squeaky for absolutely no reason, with him really selling the duplicitous menace and later shown sociopathy of the man with utter conviction. It's something I wouldn't really hear from him again until he played Izaya Orihara in Durarara. And I feel him playing dual roles as both Narukami and Adachi actually works excellently to connect the pair more strongly.
As the Jester Arcana is the inverse arcana of the Fool, thus it makes total sense for Adachi to be seen in every respect as Narukami's equal and opposite, shunning the things he cherishes and being selfish instead of selfless. And this is shown through his words and actions more strongly as we confront him in Magatsu Inaba, his personal dungeon that is a twisted representation of the town. Before we get to that, however, remember that Teddy disappeared earlier, choosing to fade from existence due to failing Nanako. Because this is the good ending, however, we can make contact with him thanks to the Velvet Room's denizens, and talk him out of vanishing, telling him that Nanako's alive and recovering, and he can stay just as long as he wants, with all of them.
I'm glad that I met you, Sensei.
It is you, Teddy.
I'm just a shadow, but Nana-chan cheered up when she heard my voice. So what if I'm just a shadow? There must be something I can do.
You now have until December 23rd to face down Adachi, so make sure as many social links as you can are maxed out, especially for your main battle team, and that of Marie.
Yeah, time to actually talk about her. She's the other new social link of the game, and another of an inverse arcana, Aeon to complement the lovers.
Marie suffers from amnesia, and despite not being able to wield a persona, is taken in by the Velvet Room denizens. Her social link story all tied to the mystery of who she really is, with the only clue to her real existence being an old wooden comb, that Kanji's mother says signifies the severing of a bond in older folklore. While this all seems to go to nothing, Marie nonetheless resolves to make new memories with everyone around her, as bit by bit her tales showcase her becoming friends with not just Narukami, but every member of the main cast despite being detached from their stories. Though it's clear from Rise's interactions with her that she views her as an actual threat to trying to win Narukami's love, that she harbors strong feelings for him, in part due to which persona he first obtained. Two other significant traits is her tsundere tendencies, and her zeal for crafting poems as a means of expressing her inner feelings, all of which tie into the truth of her identity, which is of another denizen of the shadow world. The reclamation of her memories, causing her to vanish back to it in shame, and at Margaret's urging, we ask her to look into where she went, so we can help her later. Margaret's Empress Arcana is another one I really didn't get into, but that's because it's not one you can do until late in the game anyways, and requires a lot of persona fusion. Each rank up for her has you need to show her a certain persona with a certain skill, most of which requires a meticulously calculated series of fusions to pull off correctly. If you're good at persona fusion, it's an easy chain to max out, but it all can't be completed until around this point due to level restrictions from Narukami not having gained enough experience. By Adachi, you should have more than enough. She also happens to be a special extra boss for the game in your New Game Plus run-through, that sadly, because I only had the time to do one cycle of the game, I didn't get a chance to do. To unlock it, you need to complete the Empress and beat all the extra bosses from the prior dungeons before you face Adachi, then meet her at the top of heaven, and with her a host of high-level persona, as she also appears to possess the ability of the wild card. How, when the denizens are supposed to be artificial beings? No idea. But in this event, she makes allusions to her sister Elizabeth, one of the denizens in Persona 3, having left Igor's side in order to seek out a way to help the protagonist of that game, Makoto Yuki, free himself from, well, their fate. As an artificial entity created by Philemon and Igor, she doesn't understand why Elizabeth performed this action, and wishes to find her again to learn the reason why. One of the reasons she chooses to challenge us like this in the second iteration is Igor mentioning to her that that's what her sister did with Makoto, and ultimately because we did choose to interact with her, she did begin to glimpse the understanding of why Elizabeth would put herself on the line for Makoto like she has. Nonetheless, this brings us back to Adachi and him saying the world is shit because despite all his intelligence, he's still the bottom rung of the world.
Well, yeah, you use people and put no effort into your job. It's a wonder they haven't fired you considering how much Japan treasures those with a work ethic.
He also tries to shift the blame from himself for these acts. Namatame shoves people in here, but Adachi didn't kill them. This world killed them. He didn't do it. His hands are clean. This is something he truly believes, even though neither would have happened had he not been the one to put the original victims in here. They could not be brought over here of their own will. They could not escape of their own will. It's the same as chaining someone in a dungeon and leaving them there. It's the fault of the person who trapped them for why they die. Everything Adachi says is a distortion of the truth, because he too is distorted. He just has the intelligence to speak in such a way that what he says sounds right, seems inoffensive, appears logical to someone open to being swayed to believe those things, even though what he is spouting is still nothing but lies. And his entire game has been with the goal of continuing to let the fog seep out from the shadow world, as its influence will inevitably turn everyone into shadows, forgetting themselves in pursuit of fake distractions, to make them all just like Adachi himself.
Naturally, we're not gonna let that happen.
Honestly, we don't need our world anymore. Better to let it be swallowed up and for mankind to turn into shadows.
Nobody wants anything like that! It's just you, dumbass!
You annoying little brats are the ones who are wanted in the new world!
People can't live alone. Yet you refuse to face life and admit your fault, running from your own humanity like a coward. Your twisted logic is that of an immature, egotistic brat.
Favored by the world, my ass. I'm gonna say it flat out. You're just a worthless criminal!
Damn brats! Shut up and let me finish you off!
Wait, a persona? How?
This is my one big question of the series left unanswered. How the hell did Adachi get his persona Magatsu Ikazanagi? He never confronted his inner self. He's aligned with his inner self in the same way Namatame appeared to be.
Still, with so many maxed up persona, we kick Adachi's ass until, like Namatame, the shadows consume him, revealing the originator of the fog currently consuming Inaba, Ame no Sagiri.
I am the one that shepherds humans to their true desires.
And in trying to sate the desires of humanity, he created the Midnight Channel as a window between the worlds, and a means of bringing the fog to convert humanity into shadows, abandoning truth and giving into their personal deceptions.
But like the shadows themselves, he's not really giving people what they want or need, merely another distraction from it, until they abandon themselves and give up on what they really want. Ame no Sagiri has been doing the exact same thing Adachi has, distorting reality to fit its own vision of how things should be.
To defy me is a senseless act which goes against your world's wishes.
And unsurprisingly, he is a giant camera eyeball that vents fog everywhere. Ame is an annoying boss as it can attack twice per round, and can put up an impenetrable barrier for turns on end, after which he hits the party with a super attack. Place the party in defense mode and buff them as high as he can to survive the onslaught when he does so, but since by this point she had gotten her second stage persona and Narukami had things that could cast Almighty, between the two of them his health depleted fast, all proving the truth of humanity is stronger than his fog of deception.
You have proven to me human potential. Very well. I will lift the fog from the place where you will return to. Time will show the path humanity takes. Children of the new potential.
And thus, Inaba's freed, Nanako making a full recovery, and Adachi, broken of his own deceptions, confesses fully to everything. It's over. The case is solved.
And thus, it's party time!
Which begins with spending Christmas Eve, and overnight, with the relevant Narukami paramour. Then a full party to celebrate Nanako and Dojima's recovery and escape from the hospital, and ringing in the new year by drawing fortunes from Emu's shrine. Yep, fantastic closure for a job well done. Except for, rescuing Marie. This is actually pretty easy to screw up even if you do max her social link, as then you need to talk to Margaret about her disappearance and refusal to want help, and you need to agree to go through with it. With how it's phrased, you'd think you go into it immediately instead of coming back to it later, since Margaret needs to track her, and after facing down the two Sagiris, you might think you're not ready, or it'll subvert last-minute social linking.
Not so, but that was my screw-up in it that had me repeat about 10 hours of the game again to get back to this flag to confirm it. Not the first time I had to do that either.
January begins the Persona 4 Golden provided extra time for everything, to close out any remaining social links, but because of the extra time you can level up all the main cast's Persona to rank 11, with the further evolutions I've mentioned previously. This all culminates, however, to complement the summer beach trip, with a cabin skiing trip for the cast in early February. They have fun on the slopes and tell ghost stories. This going a lot better than any of the prior attempts at a special trip for the group. So, what could possibly go wrong?
Hey, do you think... could we be lost? Crap, I don't have much feeling left in my hands. What are we gonna do?
Okay, freezing to death in a freak blizzard was not on my list of possible deaths for this group. Not unexpected considering Persona 3's protagonist's end.
We hole up in a shack we catch sight of, only for the others to barge in not long after, and reveal this is actually behind the resort and the freak blizzard is completely gone. Weird. Though the group then accused Narukami and Chie, who I selected for this, as trying to get away for sexy times.
Ow!
In reality, while holed up here, they saw an old TV turn on, with Chie trying to prove that and, well, Welcome to the Hollow Forest, Marie's personal dungeon. Margaret called us here to fulfill her rescue, as there's only a short time before this place closes, and Marie will then be gone.
So much for that ski resort vacation.
The Hollow Forest is a weird place, to say the least. You can't use any item from outside in here, instead each chest and item you get being something fresh to use inside. SP is drained over time, and there's not an easy way to recover. Worse, from Ame no Sagiri's words earlier, this place is the root behind which the Sagiris were born, to create an end to human desire by fulfilling it, which disturbs the cast at the idea Marie could be tied to those monsters of distortion. As we find her in the Hollow Forest, however, it's made clear that she did this because she's regained all of her memories when Ame no Sagiri was beaten, the fog in her mind lifted, and being consumed with the guilt.
I'm the same as them. I'm your enemy, one of the ones who covered your town with fog.
She was sent to the real world to act as their spy, to inform the Sagiris of humanity's desires, instead of doing the actual job she, Kusumi no Okami, was supposed to do and clear away the fog. Now, there's so much of it drowning the Shadow Realm that she needs to absorb it all and die. Otherwise, it will inevitably flood over Inaba and into the real world again.
I am a being destined for non-existence. That's the memory that came back to me.
But what if that memory is just another lie?
As much as she tries to make us reject her, the social link they formed is too strong to break. We won't leave her alone to die. Thus, it's battle time to make her stop. But in the midst of that, another power takes over her, the true influencing power, forcing her into this. There's another player still influencing things through distortion, towards her desiring her own death, even though in truth, she doesn't want to fade away.
Everything in this world is the product of someone's mind. This place is yours. This tomb, and the flowers all over it. However, on the way here we saw things that don't fit a grave. Junes and Sozai Daigaku signs, the bench on the hill, the electric poles, mirrors, school desks. It's all from the town, the home of the people you say you hate so much.
And her resolve begins to waver, us realizing that just like the Sagiris, if the fog overtakes her, it will have a physical form we can defeat to free her from it permanently. Alright, show us the face of deception!
What good is it to learn the truth? You want me to throw away my worthless self-satisfaction in exchange for eternal suffering and despair? What's wrong with turning a blind eye to suffering? I don't want a truth full of pain. I want a peaceful lie.
We'll get back to this. It ties into what actually birthed this entity.
Regardless, she's weak to magic, especially Yukiko's, but only after you use an elemental break item found in the Hollow Forest. Only use 2 of them at a time, and when building the party, try to align at least 2 of the team with synergistic elements, so that Narukami's persona switching can give the team a high synergistic advantage without wasting too many items. And with that, Marie's saved! Kind of a long hug there, Marie.
Shouldn't you let go now?
Nope. I'm tired of moving. Enough with getting up. Good thing there's someone even I can hug.
The Hollow Forest collapses, Marie free from her fate of destruction, and returning to the Velvet Room with a new resolve to live and find her way in this world.
Marie-chan, electricity here's a bad idea!
Disgusting creeps! I hate you all!
Though now showing signs of her own powers as well. Regardless, this all ends just in time for Valentine's Day, and the absolute final event you get to have with your paramour. A bittersweet note to everything, really, as you realize your time in the game and with these people has reached an end. And it ends with another round of Inaba! Girls can't cook! With Nanako being the last one to inflict us with food poisoning.
To be fair, she is a 7-year-old girl now.
So finally, the final day dawns upon us, the game letting us have a final farewell with everyone, taking a last good look around the town, and everyone that has impacted our journey. Wait, something's wrong here.
Yeah, come to think of it, did we ever see that gas station attendant at all after our arrival? And we never got an option to work there either. Wonder what happened to them.
Oh wait, there they are. After we are given an option by Ryotaro to not return home. Odd. Wonder why they'd only show up if that happened. Oh shit. To be fair, that's not all that triggers this. When you go back to Junas after saying farewells to everyone comes back for one last nostalgia session, only for a letter from Adachi to be delivered and reveal that he and Namatame only received their powers after coming to town, just as Narukami did.
As I said at the beginning, there's this lingering mystery of when and how Narukami was empowered, as he never met Philemon, meaning this was someone else's challenge and trial, and it was one they intended to win by never even playing the game and just letting everyone else do as they wished.
This entity is Izanami no Okami.
And yes, I did literally figure this out back at Gekkokan and not through any spoilers, because I actually know something about Shinto mythology.
Izanami is the wife of Izanagi, the god Narukami's persona is based on. While they were happy together, she died when giving birth to their son Higo Kagutsuchi, whose body's flames burnt her from the inside out. In his anger at losing his beloved wife, Izanagi killed his son, the fragments giving birth to lesser gods, while Izanami awoke in the land of the dead. In hopes of freeing herself from this realm, she made a deal with the denizens of Hell to eat its fruit, but in doing so severed her connection with Izanagi, disguising herself when they met again to hide who and what she had become, a rotting corpse from only which death would be brought. Revelation of this truth only resulting in Izanagi's anger and rejection, no longer seeing the woman he loved. And in turn, she swore revenge, intending to kill everything to get to him. The shadows, the deception, the death, all things tied to her legend. Hell, even Marie's comb fits this, as Izanami's comb, burned alight, is what signified their separation, as Izanagi burning it allowed him to see through her deception to the monster his wife had allowed herself to become in death. Every piece fits perfectly, even her choices in pawns. Namatame, Adachi, and Narukami. All people representing a void that, when filled, can shape humanity. As by observing them, she can decide what to do with humanity. She saw Adachi had the most effect and influence on those around him, so chose to back his wish for everyone to be consumed by their own lies and delusions and be like him, creating Sagiris and Marie from aspects of herself. Marie in particular, the self that existed before she died, and punishing her in anger at that being what she could never be again. Even her memory of guilt could be seen as her inflicting the same cycle on the girl as she experienced, as she died in a selfless act, only to be shunned and forgotten as a consequence of it. The deed and reason why, lost in anger. Hell, with the context of her mythos, her backing Adachi's idea of paradise more and more seems as if it was the fulfillment of revenge against Izanagi through proxy of Narukami. And now, with the curtain of her schemes pulled away, she's more than willing to just flush the world away in another blanket of fog, starting Ameno Sagiri's plan all over again. The Velvet Room denizens also have one last part to play, gifting Narukami with an orb that dispels falsehood, born from the bonds of every social link Narukami has. We confront Izanami in her dungeon, and, like Adachi, she tries to shift the blame of everything onto others, even though she is the one that facilitated all of that hardship and pain, and she rejects that interpretation.
Knowledge of the truth is not everything. Now, learn for yourselves whose wrath you have brought down.
Izanami herself is invulnerable until you use the orb to reveal her true self, of the rotting corpse condemned to hell that she has tried to hide. But as a result, all you do is piss her off. And no matter what you do, no matter how long you fight for, one by one, everyone is dragged into the underworld. Just as she was, leaving Narukami all alone.
However, there's someone whose character and role I've never really bothered to address in all of this. Who is Yu Narukami?
And there's one very simple reason why I haven't. The game gives us absolute jack about him. He is an empty character whose very existence is defined by the actions of the player. He is passive to the point of being irrelevant in his own damn story. A hollow, empty shell to be worn by the player. Nothing more. A character like Yosuke could have easily taken over the protagonist reins and removed him from the board, as I've said with the Haseo parallels. With the exception of making the game effectively self-insert wish fulfillment, what point does Narukami himself have in this story if he himself doesn't have one of his own? Wouldn't he just be wiped away for any new person that repeats his tale for their own amusement again and again and again with himself? The character having no place in it?
That, however, is all informed by Persona 4 the animation.
Adachi, Namatame, and Narukami share the meaning of their destinies of the void. They are empty, each seeking a way to fill that emptiness. Narukami is caused by distancing and abandonment by those around him. Old friends? None. Family? His parents are always away. Ryotaro over the year being more of a parent to him than they were. He is alone, just as Namatame and Adachi and his friends found themselves alone. But for Narukami, because of the events he was drawn into, he did what the others did not, and began to reach out to others to sate that loneliness, thus drawing others into his orbit.
人が人を助けていいのは自分の手が直接届くところまでなんじゃないかって。俺はこんぐらい。
Thus, he chose to play the roles they needed so he could fill the void within himself.
I am far from empty!
Persona the animation has him treasuring those bonds, reinforcing them, taking on hardship in name of those links, and in doing so, helping more and more people. His charisma and ability to attract others came not just from a natural affinity, but by being himself as he made real connections. And as long as they were there, with him, nothing else mattered, because he was full, content. It wasn't about what he gave to them, but what they had granted him.
I was afraid of a future without my friends. I don't want to lose any more friends. Not ever again. I don't want to be alone again. I've been alone, and I won't go back. Yeah, I won't go back. I had no use for the truth, did I? As long as I had them, I didn't care if it was an illusion. I know who you are, and you're me.
Persona the animation, in my opinion, is one of the best adaptations of a video game because it gives context to the protagonist that, by the limitation of the game's perspective and the player superseding that character, you are never allowed to see develop to fruition.
And the game does show this to an extent. Images of the culminations of each social link appearing to Narukami as he's consumed, to show what they've been taught by their interaction. But again, as it's the player that has done all this, as presented it feels more as if it's a list of achievements, and not the culmination of the relationships I feel is better shown in the anime's narrative. But regardless, by its end, the result is the same.
Please get up. Just once more.
And from this, Narukami at last evolves, just as the others did. The Fool Arcana takes the longest time to evolve because it possesses the most potential for growth. And from this wild card is born Izanagi no Okami.
Impossible! Can the will of so few surpass the will of all mankind?
The will of humanity is not defined by one person, or 1,000 people, or every soul to ever exist. That's chaos, a cacophony of contradiction pulling itself apart. What Narukami has is hands supporting his own, all wishing, all desiring, as one.
And today, he's graduating Inaba, humanity, and pity's home from you.
I am no longer alone!
Children of man. Well done.
Izanami vanishes, reuniting with her other fragments into Marie, evolving her into the true, original Izanami no Mikoto, the her that she was before she fell into hell. Igor and Margaret say their goodbyes, as Teddy's world has been returned to its former splendor, no longer influenced by a goddess of death and shadow. Unfortunately, it's time, now, finally, for Narukami to leave. But though they may be parting for now, there will inevitably come a day when they are all brought together again.
And we get to see that day. Before the spin-offs.
As Narukami returns to the town to spend time with everyone the following summer, Inaba having transformed from the melancholy it had suffered under, and now working on all fronts together to prove everything for everyone. Naotame running for office with passion on a platform of those changes he honestly believes in. Juness helping the local businesses by making way means of catering to a greater market, and everyone else showing how they've continued to change, grow, and accept themselves without needing him here to motivate them. Everyone is in good spirits and fortune, and all the while watched over by a certain goddess influencing them all to do their best, with simple shifts in the forecast.
Remember, the more you put in, the more you get out.
Persona 4 is one of the best RPGs I've ever played. I love its story, I love the characters, I love the mythos it calls upon. Even the city of Inaba is a really interesting place to visit, and I feel develops alongside everyone as well. But the extreme levels of time management really gets my enjoyment of it. Thus, I still really do feel that the GU games are better. Though, again, that's just my opinion.
I'm sorry, but while I didn't mention it much, the various time sinks, side quest insanity, the other irrelevance of the dungeon system, and the optional not optional game hacks to get gameplay elements that were standard in other games, did hinder my appreciation of the overall game with how meticulously you had to do everything to get shit right.
It really was a lot of the trappings that were holding me back from loving this game unconditionally, since the story is what I have the least criticisms of out of all of it. Really, I barely had anything to critique, and if you've seen a lot of my videos, that almost never happens. But because of the time sinks, I do get more pleasure from watching the anime adaptation of the story than I did playing the actual game.
Nonetheless, it is all well designed, and events are all impacted by player choices. But they really needed more flex time for players to try and do things in. And Narukami, as I said, was gutted any chance to be a character due to the self-insertion of the player themselves. Thus, I do find it weaker in aspects I just find more enjoyable in investing in the Dot Hack series.
As it is, though, if you don't have the 100+ hours to dedicate to it, honestly, I would just recommend watching the anime series from 2011. It's got the same basic plot, they recycled all of the musical scoring, a few things are rewritten for medium transfer, and a lot of the time that does make things better, as it's done to best optimize the story while remaining fully coherent.
Hell, a lot of the character stories are further expanded upon, as I've shown via the amounts of clips from it I've used, by allowing you visual insight into them and not just talking about it or having short interactions which emphasize their concerns about life. You see the full impact of events without bias, which inform all of the relationships and character stories. My only concern of it was they weren't given enough time nor episodes to properly pace everything, so some events seem drawn out or condensed as time moves on, simply to fit every major narrative point in some way, even allusions to elements of the game's tertiary activities, such as crane folding or the secondary social links.
I really liked it, at least, as it's not in any regard the story of Persona 4 I had an issue with.
However, and I can't stress this enough, do not watch Persona 4 Golden the animation. It's super condensed to the point of strangling out the main storyline and tying with the main cast all to focus on solely Marie's tale, who was a bonus character anyways that didn't factor into the main game story that much bar Izanami's revelations. and the animation is a steep downgrade from both the games and the 2011 adaptation. Unsurprisingly, Golden the Animation was done by A1 Pictures. And if you follow the anime industry in any respect, you know them for sloppy work and just shoving out adaptations of anything they can get their hands on, even if their eventual product turns out to be nothing but crap. The original 26-episode series holds up a hell of a lot better in comparison, despite the absence of the Persona 4 Golden exclusive stuff, even though Marie in and of herself is not a bad character. It's just focusing on her story to the detriment of everyone else and the entire group's character dynamics in favor of solely her that undermines what really made Persona 4's story be endearing. All of the characters and their interplay together, tied through their bonds into a microcosm of the world itself.
Which is pretty much why Golden the Animation got savaged by critics and the fandom, while every other version and adaptation is heralded as excellent. And I do agree, it is an excellent game, and well worth picking up this, the PS2 version, or even the anime to see the story play out. Feels like it's going to be a good year, and there's a lot more RPGs I'm going to be covering. So for now, I'm Shinta, and I'll see y'all next time.
Senpai!
Kanji, it was welcome back. How could you mess that up?
Hey, just shut up, alright? I just got stage fright, that's all!
Well, I figured someone would blow it.